is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Turns out a lot of people have a lot to say on this Dr. Seuss controversy. You are welcome to join us here. And with you in the studio tonight, it's Ian.
Nobody.
And Bonnie.
Are these old books that are now ceasing publication by Seuss's own, well, it was made after his death, Dr. Seuss Enterprises, making the claim that they have stopped publishing 6 of their own books, and then eBay going even further and saying they're going to ban the sale of these books. And how many people have actually even looked at these supposedly offensive images? I bet you not a lot. Because, number one, the books are relatively obscure as far as Dr. Seuss books are concerned. But we're looking at them here. We've managed to find, thanks to, let me give them more credit here, thequint.com. They actually do have some of these images that you can see for yourself. I'll put that link up on our social media, which you can find over at social.freetalklive.com. And I have not posted it yet, but I will post it up here, and then you'll be able to take a look and see, what you think. Are these things actually offensive? You decide. We're going to go also back to more of your calls and thoughts, but we were discussing a frame from McGilligut's Pool, which is not racism. It is not. It's described as a racist depiction of Inuits. And there's nothing racist about this. It's an image of an Eskimo. Again, that's supposedly racist or supposedly offensive. It's not racist. It's just supposedly offensive. An Inuit person who is in the cold, in a very cold place. They're on like a river or something like that, and there's a lot of icebergs around, and there's little fish with what appear to be fur coats on as they're traveling to McGilligut's Pool. And the line in the book says, some Eskimo fish from beyond Hudson Bay might decide to swim down, might be headed this way. It's a pretty long trip, but they might, and they may. Where is the racism? Where is the offensiveness? If somebody uses the term Eskimo without knowing that it is supposedly offensive, it's not racism.
The weirdest part about this is I tried to Google just any answer about why Eskimo is offensive, because I had kind of heard of this before, but I never knew the answer, and I couldn't find anything. Like, one thing said it means the type of shoes, like snowshoes they wear.
No, apparently it means eater of raw meat. So, at some point, people called Inuits Eskimos because it's like I guess it's an Indian term or something like that describes them as eaters of raw meat.
Well, they do chew whale blubber famously. That's where chewing the fat comes from. And, I guess they don't cook it first.
But because the Inuits themselves
are better known for eating raw fish.
Here is the story from Fahili Fine Arts. What's the difference between Inuit and Eskimo? You've likely heard the name Eskimo used to refer to Inuit and their culture, whether by your grandparents, parents, or maybe even a friend who grew up outside of Canada. It's a term that has been out of date since 1980, when the name Inuit was recognized by the Inuit Circumpolar Council to denote Inuit groups across the circumpolar region of Canada, Greenland, the U.S., and Russia. Today, Eskimo is considered a pejorative term, and they get into the history of why. According to the Inuk author and translator Minnie Adola Freeman, the term Eskimo came from another indigenous language in Canada, Cree. In Cree, the word is Eshimau, spelled E-S-C-H-E-E-M-A-U, which roughly means eaters of raw meat. Freeman explains the word developed after the Cree first encountered the Inuit and found them eating raw meat. A way of life the Inuit proudly continue until this day. So it's not an inaccurate word.
Okay.
Another theory is the word has Innu-Aimun origin, a language spoken by the Labrador and northern Quebec-based Innu. The word is Awasimo or Ayasimu, which means roughly one who laces snowshoes. Maybe that's where the snowshoe thing came from. Originally, it may have been used by the Innu to describe the Mi'kmaq and later transferred to the Inuit. Over time, this word too developed into eater of raw meat. The prefix ashk can mean raw or fresh. The French later translated the word to Eskimo, which made its way into English use. Why is Eskimo pejorative, they say? Using Eskimo today is considered pejorative or derogatory simply because eater of raw meat is not how the Inuit choose to refer to themselves.
Well, I understand that because I don't think that it necessarily means you're racist because, like, everybody I know would automatically know what a person was referring to if they said Eskimo.
And they weren't intending to be mean.
Yeah, and they weren't intending to be mean. I don't think it means it's racist. But, like, with Native Americans, like, nobody is intending to be mean by calling them Indians, but that's just incorrect and not what they call themselves. So, like, I totally understand.
That actually varies because if driving through New York, I was very surprised to see that the Seminole, if you look at the seal of the Seminole Nation, it says Seminole Nation of Indians.
Mm-hmm.
Weird.
And so that at least is their official title for themselves. And I was very surprised to see that. I had to pull over and look at that again. Like, seriously? You know, people are... do people call them racist when they call themselves Indians? I don't know.
I went to high school with some natives and... Oh, the Goshu. And
Goshu?
they did not like the word Indian because it's what somebody like Columbus called them because he thought he was in India.
Right.
But
yeah.
That is interesting.
Yeah, I mean, there's a difference between being sort of insensitive without knowing and being racist. There's a gulf of a difference there. Right?
Yeah. As far as Dr. Seuss, it sounds like he wasn't trying to be racist because everybody back then probably
called
only
them
said
Eskimos.
Eskimo.
Yeah. And I don't know the whole thing about, declaring a term to be out of date in 1980, this book was written long before 1980, so apparently the term was still fresh then. It hadn't gone bad. They should have left it alone.
And so now you've got companies like the makers of Eskimo pies changing the name of the Eskimo pie.
Well, because it doesn't have any raw meat in it.
That much is true. But for how many decades was this frozen treat labeled the Eskimo pie? And now, all of a sudden, now this needs to stop. Now they're concerned with what the Eskimos think, of this product. I mean, it's not like the Eskimos are eating
It's not
Eskimo
very
pie.
intuitive, is it?
You're not going to find large Eskimo pie sales in, the northern hemisphere, the northernmost portion of the hemisphere. It's cold there. They're probably not a big selling product.
Yeah, I think that's apocryphal, the guy who can sell ice cream to Eskimos.
Yeah. So it's just, there's so much hand-wringing and so many people who are just looking to be offended these days. It's really frustrating. We go on, though, with your calls and your thoughts. He is Dave Ridley from The Ridley Report on the line in New Hampshire. Go ahead, Dave. Dave? Ridley?
Dave's not here.
.com. Ridley going once, Ridley going twice.
Ridley.com.
Scott the Bigot on the line here in Florida. Scott? Uh-oh.
Are you
Scott
sure your
going once?
phone's working?
I've definitely got him unmuted, so I don't know what's going on with that. Maybe, see, phone's working. I don't know what's happening. Anyway, 603-283-6160 if you want to join us here. So, again, the Eskimo page, not offensive in any way, shape, or form. It's adorable. The little fish wearing the...
Parkas.
What'd you say?
Parkas.
Parkas. That's
what those
good words for it.
Coats are called.
Yeah.
Reminded me of Coconut with his coat on.
Indeed. Yeah, just cute little fish. They're smiling. They're going to McElligot's pool. There's nothing here.
Or they might be. We don't know.
Nothing here that's derogatory. But let's get back into Vox, because they do have some examples of some advertisements, apparently, that Seuss made that were allegedly racist. So they point out here that, let's see, Seuss's work for adults includes some pretty unambiguously racist images. Husband and wife team Katie Ishizuka and Ramon Steffens, who runs the Conscious Kids Social Justice Library... That sounds like a fun place. Developed a study of Dr. Seuss's history of racism that features a small sampling. One advertisement that Dr. Seuss drew for Flit insecticide featured a disgusted white woman saying to a black man, Quote, you hold a job. Worthless? Say, N-word. When you hold a job a week, mosquitoes will brush their teeth with flit and like it. Unquote. Now
I don't know what that means.
Me either. I didn't understand that, but it sounded like he said the N-word. So.
Yeah, and that definitely sounds offensive. So let's continue here. And of course, they don't link to the actual advertisement to show you. 603-283-6160. Hour number 3 is on the way. You can take control of the airwaves here on Free Talk Live.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
Want to accept Bitcoin at your online store? There's a good chance you already have what you need: a WordPress using WooCommerce and a Bitcoin address. Now all you need to start taking Bitcoin payments on your website is the AnyPay app on your Android or iPhone. Just paste your Bitcoin address into AnyPay, then connect it to your website with our one-click plugin for WordPress. Now your website takes Bitcoin, start to finish, in 15 minutes or less with no complicated steps. Download AnyPay from the App Store today.
The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
Closer to a vote. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News, but it will be a late night as the Senate has yet to begin debating President Biden's nearly $2 trillion coronavirus relief package.
Vice President Kamala Harris broke a 50-50 deadlock in the Senate to start debate on a $1.9 trillion COVID relief measure.
A, the distribution and administration of vaccines licensed
but
under
debate
Section
is delayed. Senate clerks are reading aloud all 628 pages after Wisconsin Republican Ron Johnson objected to a motion to dispense with the reading.
I feel bad for the clerks that are going to have to read it, but it's just important.
Democrats say there should be no delay in passing a relief bill that includes $1,400 stimulus checks for most Americans. Republicans say the bill is loaded with unnecessary spending with little to do with the pandemic. Jared Halpern, Fox News.
After January's deadly riot at the U.S. Capitol, recommendations have been made to upgrade security, including a full-time quick reaction force manned 24 hours a day using military police from National Guard forces across the country. Other recommendations include retractable fencing to secure the Capitol and office buildings, more Capitol police officers, and increased intelligence training. The draft report came from retired General Russell Honore. In addition, Capitol Police are requesting National Guard troops remain in D.C. for another 2 months. The White House says President Biden is closely monitoring any possible threats to the Capitol.
The president personally remains deeply engaged in tracking these threats and receiving regular updates, as he does from his team, about threats, of course, but about incidents happening across the country.
Press Secretary Jen Psaki. The president has asked senior members of his team to travel to the U.S.-Mexico border region to report on the influx of unaccompanied minors. That's according to a White House official. America is listening to Fox News.
Join over 24,000 of some of the fastest growing companies in the world who rely on NetSuite. Just ask Sean Nelson, founder of Lovesac.
We started as a beanbag company in my parents' basement. And the next thing I knew, we were one of the fastest growing furniture companies in the world. Only problem? We still had multiple systems for everything.
NetSuite gives you visibility and control over your financials, inventory, e-commerce, HR, and more.
Lovesac furniture is built to last and infinitely adaptable, just like NetSuite.
Find out how NetSuite can help your company with a free product tour at netsuite.com/relax.
The Navy continues to deal with outbreaks of COVID-19 on board ships and at its academy.
2 U.S. warships continue to be out of action in Bahrain. The Navy's Fifth Fleet says roughly 20 crew members aboard the USS San Diego and the guided missile cruiser Philippine Sea have tested positive, for a total of 40. Dozens of other sailors have been isolated from both ships. Fifth Fleet says the 2 warships could get underway if needed. It's not just the Middle East where the Navy's feeling the coronavirus strain. Roughly 200 midshipmen at the U.S. Naval Academy were moved to hotels in downtown Annapolis this week following a coronavirus outbreak likely stemming from Valentine's Day. At the Pentagon, Lucas Tomlinson, Fox News.
Alabama Governor Kay Ivey has extended the state's mask order through April 9th. The number of students applying for college is trending downward among some groups.
New data suggests that fewer first-time and low-income students are applying for college. USA Today reports that information from Common App, a shared application form used by more than 900 colleges and universities, shows that while overall applications are up 11% from a year ago, they're down among first-generation students and flat among low-income students. Completion of the FAFSA, the federal student aid application, is down almost 10% from last year. That number increased to 12.1% for high schools serving lower-income students and to more than 14% for high schools with a high percentage of students of color. Tanya J. Powers, Fox News.
Lawyer at home.
This is Michael Dean from the Freedom Fiends. I've run websites since 1996 and have used over a dozen web hosts in that time. AgristHosting.com is the only one that hasn't broken my heart. Agrist Hosting's uptime and service is stellar, and their DDoS mitigation is the best I've seen. That's important because if you tell the truth in this world, you'll ruffle feathers. And some people will try dirty tricks to silence your voice. No matter what the haters hit us with, Agrist Hosting keeps our websites online. If you have a mission-critical commercial presence or a world-changing activism site, you cannot tolerate any skullduggery. So go with agristhosting.com. Have a WordPress or blog site, but you're not satisfied with performance or uptime? Or just want raw hosting? Want to pay with Bitcoin? Agrist Hosting specializes in high-performance hosting with personalized service. Go to agristhosting.com and click on the button that says Get Hosted. That's agristhosting.com.
We're being attacked by news from all sides in tonight's News Blitz. Now we're homing in on Houston, Texas, where NASA announced today that the crew of the International Space Station has successfully completed their 13-year mission studying man's ability to constantly repair a large object in space. NASA officials hailed the remarkable feat of maintenance at a press conference this afternoon.
And throughout human history, man has gazed at the stars and dreamed of fixing something up there. People once thought the ultimate feat in human repair was a really big boat. Today, we've accomplished so much more.
This comes in the wake of NASA's previous success, finding out how many times an astronaut could hold something in his hand, then let it go, watch it float in front of his face for a bit, then catch it again. All right, dust yourself off. You have survived the News Blitz.
Tune in tomorrow morning to Today Now. We'll look back at Jim's week as a polygamist.
Oh, it's going to be fun.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
This is Free Talk Live. The number, if you want to join us, 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Joining you in the studio tonight, you've got Ian.
Nobody.
And Bonnie.
So we're spent the whole show so far talking about the Dr. Seuss controversy and doing more digging, I think, than the media would like you to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the headlines are all about how Dr. Seuss's own company, which wasn't started by Seuss because it was started after he died, but it was started by his wife, and she subsequently passed away in 2018. So I don't know who's running the thing. but probably some board of directors, and they've decided that they're going to ban or stop publishing 6 of his books. And we went down the list of them. Most of them I had not heard of. McGilligan's Pool seems familiar to me, and If I Ran the Zoo is probably the most familiar. And we were looking at some of the imagery, which you won't find in most of the news reporting about this. It's just accepted by the news media that, well, this is racist, so therefore we're just going to tell you that Dr. Seuss was a racist. We're just going to say that these books were stopped publishing by his own organization, and we'll report on eBay banning the books from their platform. That happened too. And that's it. That's where they leave the story. They just expect you to accept that this content is racist. And we took a look at it, and while some of it may be stereotyping, like as in drawing Asian characters in a certain way, using the word Eskimo in a way that is in no way offensive or intended to be offensive, but simply a reference to an Inuit person, which was commonly used and probably is still fairly commonly used, because you didn't know, nobody, that Eskimo is an offensive term.
Yeah,
apparently.
I mean, it didn't even go stale until 1980, apparently.
Yeah, and I didn't know until recent months as well. Did you know that about Eskimo, Bonnie? Had you heard that?
I had heard that because, like, I knew to say Inuit, but I don't know.
Did they teach you that in school?
I don't know where I first heard that, honestly. I don't know any people that
you don't know any
Or did you
Inuits,
just
right?
intuit Inuit?
I'm just intuitive.
So just kind of looking closer at this, you do actually find out as you dig deeper that, yes, Dr. Seuss did apparently have a racist past. And according to Vox.com, he drew advertisements for Flit insecticide many years ago. And there was one of them that used the N-word, apparently, in the advertisement. I tried to find that particular image. I wanted to see what the image looked like. I wasn't able to find that image in particular, but I did find another cartoon by Dr. Seuss. It's signed by him. It's his art style that's being preserved by some art group out there, but it is another cartoon where he uses the N-word in definitely in a racist manner for sure. But this is likely one of his older cartoons. His cartooning that he did with Flit was a very, very long time ago. Remember, he died. Wasn't he in his 80s when he died?
He was 87 in 1991.
87 in 1991. So
wait, sorry, his wife died at 87, so I don't know.
Okay, well, yeah, we don't know how old he was. We could pull that up here in
Yeah,
in a
let's
bit,
find out what year he was born.
Yeah, I suspect it was pretty early on in the 20th century. So, anyway, people are not looking closely at this. According to, 1904. Born in Springfield, Massachusetts, just an hour and a half south of here.
So how old was he when he died?
He was, let's see, I'm not sure doing the math here, but yeah, he was definitely
He would have been in
his
his
80s. You know, so he was an old guy. And early on in his career, he was doing these advertisements, and early on in his life, he may have been a racist, but people can change.
Or at least not questioned the prevailing wording of the time.
Could very well be.
I mean, a lot of it seems to be disingenuous to condemn people for failing to be ahead of their time, especially when it's people who ended up being ahead of their time by the end of their life.
Right.
You know?
Shouldn't people get credit for changing? I mean, according to a story over at allthat'sinteresting.com, however, according to Ron Lamoth, the filmmaker behind the political Dr. Seuss, apparently it's a documentary, Geisel, that's the name of Dr. Seuss, it's his real last name, later regretted his past beliefs and even scanned and amended his earlier works to remove any racist oversights. So at some point in
oversights or overtones?
It says oversights here in the story.
I think he was looking for the word overtones.
But regardless, to point out that this guy actually took the time to go back and revise his older works to get rid of the racism. Apparently, that wasn't enough for the Dr. Seuss Enterprises organization that is now stopping publishing of 6 of his books over some imagery that is in no way, in my opinion, racist.
Yeah.
So all of this hubbub over nothing, over a man who changed his opinion. I mean, and he's not the only person. Malcolm X, another great example of somebody who was virulently racist for a period of time, changed his opinion.
Yeah. And of course, Malcolm X, the difference is Malcolm X had good reason for not liking white people. Which is, white people did his people wrong.
Well, not every white person did his people
certainly
wrong.
not every person. But
that doesn't justify racism if some white people are mean to you.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't justify it. It does explain it, though.
It does explain it. Sure. But he changed his opinion after he went on a Hajj.
The truth be told, if I had somebody once asked me, what I would say to Malcolm X if I ran into him before his conversion in Mecca, and he'd say, I hate your kind, white devil. And I said, well, my response would probably be, I can see how you would. Because
but then you could hopefully have a conversation and explain why it's not right to hate someone's kind over the actions of some people. And he came to the conclusion that he was wrong when he went on the Hajj, which is the pilgrimage to Mecca.
And he saw people of all races working together.
That's right.
Something that America, unfortunately, had failed to show him.
And that was, and that was all it took. Just that one experience to take somebody who was one of the most well-known, racists at the time and flip him.
Yeah.
And isn't that when the CIA killed him too or something?
Well, FBI.
Yeah, well, he was killed pretty quickly after that. And Martin Luther King as well, interestingly enough, one of the last things he did before he was killed was he started a campaign that, instead of being racially based, was based on trying to help poor people of all colors. And it seems like that was something that was unacceptable to the U.S. government, to have people reaching across racial lines.
Well, because it benefits the government to keep people separated.
Exactly.
It benefits the government to keep people believing in a race war, or that there's some conflict that's coming, and we need the government to keep us safe, et cetera, et cetera. So
imagine if the militia had been out there with Black Lives Matter, which is what they're supposed to be doing, is defending the people from the government. It would have been a whole different ballgame.
Yeah, well, it's still not too late.
It's not
for groups like that to come together,
and I hope they will.
But in the case of Dr. Seuss, people should be lauding him for the change that he made. They should be pointing out that Dr. Seuss that died was not the same Dr. Seuss that was, in his 30s or whenever it was when he was making these advertisements for Flit that were racist. He's a different person. He's a different man. And it's a tragic story. The number here is 603-283-6160. If you want to join the show, you can. I don't know if there's more here. I'll see if Vox has any more dirt that they're going to dredge up about him. But we'll get